Good evening, Professor. Today we are going to go over the copyright and fair use Assure model that I used when creating my lesson plan. So the Assure model, ASSURE, stands for Analyze Learners, State Standards and Objectives, Select Strategies and Resources, Utilize Resources, Require Learner Participation, Evaluate, and Revise. Analyze Learners. The lesson I created was to target students that are in the 8th grade, which is typically between ages 13 and 14. As stated, the students are internet natives with frequent use and likely have a general understanding of internet function. Students, however, have little to no understanding of copyright law or fair use policy. Given the age range, students should have the following skills that are relevant to this lesson: ability to analyze meaning within a text, complete short research projects, participate clearly within discussions, identify arguments or claims, and state ideas, use context clues and critical thinking, and identify fact from fiction. State standards and objectives. The students will be able to explain the importance of copyright law after the lesson. The students will be able to correctly define copyright law. Students will be able to explain the difference between traditional copyright, Creative Commons, and public domain. Students will be able to correctly identify copyrighted material. Students will be able to explain fair use policy, and the students will be able to correctly list the 4 factors of fair use. My selected strategies and resources are as follows. Present a lesson for the student with a presentation and activity. Use internet resources to support instruction and provide understanding. Provide students with printed materials to complete the activity. The activity will consist of finding information and correctly identifying its copyright status. Students will use the provided resources and work in pairs to complete the activity. Students will be provided with a list of the resources, minus the textbook, for future use. Resources for this presentation, as well as the lesson, include our textbook, the Instructional Technology and Media for Learning 12th edition, UNT's Copyright Quick Reference Guide, GCF Global's Copyright and Fair Use article, the California State University's Copyright and Fair Use Common Scenarios, the Can I Use It checklist for copyright, and the Copyright Organizer worksheet. Utilizing resources. For the presentation, I used the Instructional Technology and Media for Learning, Chapter 1, page 16 as background information. I also used the GCF Global article, Copyright and Fair Use, to be shared with the students, as well as UNT's Copyright Quick Reference Guide to be shared with students. I included 2 infographics that I found last minute, so they're actually not listed here. One on the traditional copyright, common, and public domain, and then of course just a background copyright infographic that covers uh, the basics. I also use the copyright and fair use common scenarios, which would be read and examined with the students. In my lesson, I stated that I would use 2 scenarios from each media type and then discuss them with the students and ask them questions. I also plan to use the Can I Use It checklist, which I will print out and hand to students for the activity, 1 per pair. And then the copyright organizer worksheet to be printed out and handed to students for use with the activity, one per student. Each pair of students will be directed to find and identify 5 resources, where they found the resources, and the current copyright state of those resources. The learner participation, the students will be required to listen attentively and participate in the discussion when prompted by questions. And the students will be required to work together to complete an activity that will demonstrate their learning and understanding of copyright law. Evaluate and revise. Students will demonstrate knowledge by successfully completing the activity correctly. Evaluation will be based on how well students listened, participated in the discussion, and how well they completed the activity. Evaluation will also be determined using a grading rubric that outlines criteria and expectations. Grading may be done using a simple 1 to 5 scale or include notes if needed. Revision of the lesson will be determined on an as-needed basis based on feedback and evaluation results.